In this tutorial, I'm going to give a demonstration on the techniques that I use to create edge darkening on my prints. And for the purpose of this demonstration, I have reduced the overall size of this image to 1600 pixels high. Now, depending upon whether or not you're making a print or preparing an image for projection, that will determine the overall size of your image. So, like I say, in this case, I've made my image 1600 pixels wide or high. The first thing I will do is I will go over and select the marquee tool. And using the rectangular marquee, I will come into the picture and I will drag a rectangle into the scene on approximately the area that I want to have darkened. Now, what I've done is I've made a selection. However, if I was to make the darkening effect at this point, I would darken everything within this area. So what I want to do is go up to the Select tab, click on Select, and go to Inverse. Now what I've done is I have selected the area from the border into the print or the image, as you can see with the marching ants. The next thing I want to do is go back to the Select tab and click on Refine Edge. And by doing this, we will see this area which is blocking out or masking out the center of the picture. Now, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to grab this window that opens up. Now we have some adjustments here that probably the simplest method is to come down to the second tab, which will soften or what they call feather the edge. And as I slide this over, we can see the edge beginning to get softened. Now it takes a little bit of work, but you may see somewhere around perhaps 50 to 75 pixels. So what we're doing is we're blending this edge between the two. So if I'm satisfied with what I have, I will click OK. And now we see that our corners are rounded. Perhaps the simplest way that I have found so far is I will come up to the image, I will scroll down to Adjustments and come over to Brightness and Contrast. And this opens up a window of brightness contrast sliders. Now what I can do is drag this slider down and we can already see the effects of the edge darkening. Now, a word of caution. I would not go down this far because it will be quite noticeable in a print or a projected image. So what we want to do is just do enough so it's barely perceptible. And if I click OK, I can also click the preview. We can see the before and after effects. So we can see what we've caused. So now I will click OK, and if I use the shortcut of Control D, I will eliminate the marching ants. So now we see the effect of the edge darkening. And if we click on the eyeball next to the layer, we can see the effect of the edge darkening. Now I'm going to delete this particular layer because I'm going to show you another method. So I just click on the layer, drag it down to the trash bin, and to create another layer, I will make the keystroke of Control J, which will make a duplicate layer of our background layer. I'll come back up and I will select the elliptical marquee tool. And this may take a little bit of playing around with to get the feel for it, but now we can see the effect of where the elliptical marquee is. And if we go back up to selection, we invert the selection, go back to select, and refine the edge, feather the edge again. I'm going to take it up to about maybe 55 or maybe 75. We'll just pick something there around 70. Same operation. Come down to adjustments, go to the brightness and contrast. We go to the brightness and contrast tool again, and we can darken the edge and see the effects of the darkening. Now, sometimes an oval selection will work best, and we can click on and off and see the effects, and we can also select the Control plus the D and remove the marching ants. So now we can see the overall effect of the edge darkening. Now there's one other method that we could use, and what I'll do is I'll turn this layer off. I'll click on the background layer and I'll make another layer. So now we have the background copy, and what I'll do, I have a separate layer here. I will go up under filter. This is the third method, and we go under filter and lens correction, and I'm going to have to resize this so we can get it within our screen here to see how this works. Just a little bit of resizing here, drag things down. There. Within the lens correction, we come up under the tab called Custom. And when we click on Custom, we have the opportunity of making various changes to the picture. Now what I'm going to do is come over here and I'm going to change this view to fit in the view so we can see the full effect of what is happening. Now for the purpose of this demonstration, I will slide this vignette over to the right side to lighten it, and we can see the effect of the lightening vignette. Now the purpose of doing the lightening effect is to demonstrate one other tool with this vignette feature, is that we can control the midpoint. So as I slide this further to the left, we see that the midpoint of that vignette becomes closer to the center. So I may leave it perhaps just about there, and then when we slide this slider back down, we get a little bit of vignetting. Very subtle. We come down to the preview tab, click on the preview, and what's happening here is the software has changed also the profile of the lens and corrected for some of the distortion with the lens, so you'll notice a little bit of change in the picture. So we see the effect of the edge darkening. If we're satisfied with that, we can click OK, and we can toggle on this background on and off, and again we see the effect of the edge darkening. Now if you were a Photoshop Lightroom 3 user, there's also a tool in Lightroom where you can do a similar vignette effect, and that is a separate operation in Lightroom. But that'll give you some type of a clue as to the different methods of darkening the edges of our prints. We can make it either a rectangle or an oval, whichever you choose, and the third method is also using the filter in Photoshop CS5.